Okay, so we've finished the ingestion and ideation phases. The only remaining phase then is the production phase, the big green block here on the bottom. So here we're going to create the final product. In our case, this is going to be a newsletter written in markdown. We're also going to have a nice header image. Before we start, let's maybe quickly review what the final result will look like. Obviously, yours may look different. You might have a different structure in mind for your newsletter. Obviously, if you choose to publish it somewhere, you would likely use different styling and things like that. But let's briefly review the rough structure. So here we're looking at a single newsletter post on my website, gammavibe.com. Of course, we have a title here. So in this case, Nature's CAD files are now open. There's a subtitle. We have the header image. We have a caption for the image. Then I have a couple of sections. Okay, so we have the signal. That's basically a rough summary of the idea. In the problem, we dive deeper into the specific problem that we're trying to solve with this idea. Then we cover the solution. Here I have this audio edition. So this is an audio overview, sort of podcast style, if you will. We'll actually cover this in a bonus at the end as well, so stay tuned for that. Then we have the business case. I'm breaking this down into the revenue model, where we talk about the different ways we can actually make money with this idea. If you remember, we just generated this with the deep dive step, among other things. And then here we have the go-to-market strategy. Then we have the moat. So that's what sets us apart from the competition. Why now? Why now is a good time to do this? This is typically where we're going to see a lot of article citations. And then finally, we have the builder's corner. That's where we go over the suggested tech stack to build an MVP. So as an exercise, maybe think about what you would want your newsletter to look like. Feel free to use the same sections that I just showed you here, or think about how you would want to structure it differently. And then come up with a prompt that'll implement this step. As always, we're going to need a new model, so a place to store the generated newsletter post. I'm going to call this NewsletterPost. Feel free to use a different name. This will use the same base table pattern that we've used for all of the models. What I'm doing is I break out some of the fields. So for example, the subject line and the preview text get their own field. And then the body itself is just in this big markdown content field. You can do a more structured or less structured approach. There's really no wrong solution, but that's what worked well for me. Then we're going to need a new step. So I'm calling this the writer step, very similar to the last couple of steps that we implemented. I've gotten the best results by essentially feeding in both the candidate as well as the full business model that we developed in the deep dive. And then the step will basically be tasked with turning that into the final newsletter, following a specific format that you can specify in the prompt. For output, I suggest simply writing it as a markdown file, so something like newsletter.md in an output directory, as well as storing it in the database. Your final pipeline might actually post this directly to Ghost or some other platform, depending on your use case. But storing it in the file system will make it easiest for us to nicely preview it right in the IDE, and then we can go from there. So go take a stab at drafting a prompt, pause the video, and then come back to compare and kick things off.